listening to the Booktrospective Podcast, a podcast for all types of books. And even though we read all types of books across all different types of genres, we want to give a disclaimer. Many of our books and a lot of our content sometimes is intended for mature audiences. And we don't believe in censorship, but we do want our listeners to have the opportunity to decide if our episode or podcast is good for them. So, with that, let's get into the episode. Hey, it's Dominique.
And Keely.
And you are listening to Booktrospective. And this week we are covering The Neighbor Favor by
Kristina Forrest.
I cannot remember her name. I've never read anything and I didn't know anything about her before, so her name I'm new to her. So okay, well Keely, how's your week been?
Been all right. Nothing special.
I think it's been 2 weeks since we recorded, actually.
I think it's been a minute. Honestly, I can't remember what happened before then and now, or between then and now.
Yeah.
So
nothing like drastic, I don't think.
Right.
I don't think anything like either way on the pendulum has happened. Oh no, Keely's car works again.
Yes, the heat works too, so I'm thrilled about
the battery,
that.
The heat. All she had to do was unplug it. So that theory applies to cars. So no, that works, but yeah, no. I think that's it. I started to crochet. I'm making an ugly blanket, which I'm pretty sure everyone told me I should turn into a scarf. And I probably will, only because I already want to do something else. And so my commitment level.
It gets boring.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to try like different patterns and different stitches and stuff now. So I'm like, okay, and I had like, I didn't freak out about it, but I accidentally snapped my yarn, but it was like quickly, like was able to like reconnect. You can't even tell. I said, look at me. I know what I'm doing.
Well, even if you like making a blanket, if you want to practice different stitches, you can just do that within your blanket too. And it would just be like,
that makes sense. No one
and then you can pick it up and put it down whenever you want to.
That's true. I could just keep it like that.
Well, that's what I do.
Part of me, like, I kind of want to be like, this is my first completed project. But this is, I don't know. But I started doing that because my hands need some. I have adult ADHD. Like, I cannot sit still. I'm either, like, when I listen to books, I'm either playing, like, this puzzle game on my phone, or it used to be, like, this, it's called Wooddoku, like Sudoku, but it's these wood pieces. Anyways, yeah. So, I don't know. Anyways, okay. So, announcement is that we are changing the format of the podcast. So, normally I talk for a very extended length of time, and then we only briefly talk about the books, like back and forth. And we're changing that for a couple of reasons. Like, one, because we wanted to have more discussion versus me just blabbing. Two, it is like a little like daunting for me to like the amount of notes that I normally take, especially me being in school. Like, I can fly through a book actually very fast, especially because I mostly do audiobooks, but it takes me like several days because like when I know that I have to take notes on it, I just like I have no motivation to do it. It like sucks the life out of me. So I'm not taking notes. And it's hard because I'm just trying to like highlight things without fully taking notes. That's very hard. But we're gonna like do more discussion. So it's gonna be a lot different. Hopefully you still enjoy it. We're still gonna spoil things. So that's all still fair game. But it's not gonna be the same format. So with that, we're still gonna start off the same. So Keely, do you have the blurb?
I will in just a second. Let's see. All right. A shy bookworm enlists her charming neighbor to help her score dates. And then there's Jovi. Not knowing he's the obscure author she's been corresponding with in the sparkling, heart-fluttering romance by Kristina Forrest. Shy, bookish, and admittedly awkward, Lily Greene has always felt inadequate compared to the rest of her accomplished family who strive for Black excellence. She dreams of becoming a children's book editor, but she's been frustratingly stuck in the nonfiction division for years without a promotion in sight. Lily finds escapism in her correspondences with her favorite fantasy author, And what begins as two lonely people connecting over email turns into a tentative friendship and possibly something else Lily won't let herself entertain until he goes to her without a word. Months later, Lily is crushed, but she's determined to get a hold of her life, starting with finding a date to her sister's wedding. And the perfect person to help her is Nick Brown, her charming, attractive new neighbor who she feels drawn to for reasons she can't explain. But little does she know, Nick is an author, her favorite fantasy author. Nick, who has his reasons for using a pen name and pushing people away, soon realizes that the beautiful, quiet girl from down the hall is the same Lily he fell in love with over email months ago. Unwilling to complicate things even more between them, he agrees to set her up with someone else through this simple favor between two neighbors is anything but. Not when he can't get her off his mind.
That one was a tongue twister. Sometimes they are. Keely has to read them, and I'm like, better you than me. Okay, so if you could describe this book in one word, what would you say?
Well, I'm mad because I've not read the blurb before, and my word was inadequacy.
Oh,
So,
I think that's still fair. I don't have a word. I'm trying to think. Um, trying to think. I always have like concepts. I always have like an idea of like what I want, but I don't ever like have like the word. I'm trying to think. Okay. Hmm. I always have to go to Google. Google will tell me. Okay. I'm just gonna go. You said inadequacy. I'm gonna say insecurity. General summary still, and then like we'll talk about it. So, we have Lily and we have Nick. And Lily is they're both our main characters are black. And we get dual POV. Lily is they're both like late 20s, I
yeah,
think.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Lily lives in New York City, and she works for like the worst publisher or editor, I guess, at a publishing company. Who works like in nonfiction. That's not really her passion. Her passion is children's fiction because her favorite book. She used to work at a bookstore, and it's her favorite book is this fiction book about elves and they're black, and it really like got her into like fantasy and all these things, and it was published by an author who has never published anything else. That book literally only had like 3 copies. Her copy is like tarnished and destroyed. No one has ever even heard about this book. So she like periodically will like check in on this author, and like all of a sudden this author has a website, so she decides to start emailing them, which we know that this author is Nick is currently like a travel journalist, but he wrote this book like in college or right after college, and he like it's not that it's a bad book, it's he like got a deal with the publisher that like went under right after, so it never really got the chance to like get notarized. And so he starts a back and forth with her, but he is like very embarrassed and concerned about his past. So, and he feels like he's just like, he's one of those guys, like one of those main characters, like, I'm a bad guy. Like, I'm gonna like anybody I touch, like I ruin, like that kind of whole thing. So like they like email for like a year, and then he ghosts her because she's like, oh, can we Zoom? And then he never shows up, and then he's like, hey, sorry, not who you think I am, and like ghosts her. His pen name is N.R. Strickland, which he like did to be like British, so like he kind of pretends to be like, but he's not, he's American. So then he ends up moving back stateside because his friend from college is the only person who knows who N.R. Strickland really is, decides like to get his book like reintroduced. And he ends up moving next door to Lily because Lily is now staying with her sister. She has two older sisters. Violet, who is the one she's staying with. Violet is like a stylist
Mhm.
for like musicians and stuff. And she's engaged. And then Iris, that's her name.
Yeah.
Iris is the oldest, and she was married. She has a daughter, but her husband passed away in a car accident. So they're all named after flowers. It's very cute. And yeah, so he like very quickly realizes who she is. Well, not very quickly, but he way before she does. And she doesn't, but she like sees that he's kind of like, she basically starts this bet with her sisters because everyone in her life wants her to have like a better job, a better life, a husband, all these things. She's tired of them like setting her up. And so she's like, okay, there's this neighbor guy I think is hot. I'm gonna try to get him to go be my sister's the date to my sister's wedding. And then he like when he's like no because he knows who she is, she's like, but okay, well, can you help me find one? So that kind of starts, it's a romance. We know how that goes. So of course, like, they start like hanging out all the time. It is very cute. Yeah, so I mean, it is a very cute romance. I like it. I'm actually like, it's not that I don't want to say I'm so dumb, but it's like as I was reading the beginning of this book, like the first like third of this book is them emailing, I feel like. And never in my mind was I like, okay, but when does the neighbor part come in? Like it never even crossed my mind because I was not thinking about it. Like nothing in my mind was like, okay, they're gonna end up being neighbors. Was not thinking about it, was never even like concerned that they weren't anywhere near each other. And so when it happened, I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, duh. Like, duh. So, yeah. So, anyways. So, if you have not read this book and, oh, no. Well, there's not really triggers, though, I guess. Well, there are a little bit. Cheating.
Parental
Oh, yeah,
trauma.
there are, yeah.
Yes.
Parental, no, like, neglect of a child, like, talked about. Cheating. What else would I say? Those are the big ones. Death of a spouse
Yeah.
mentioned. Those would be the big three, I guess. So yeah, so if you have not read this book and you don't want to be spoiled, then this is your notice to pause here and come back later. Otherwise, we're going to get into whatever this new format looks like. I might move this back in order. I might not. I don't really know. Sometimes I get lazy when I edit. So I keep trying to remember to talk about the author as well and like I guess like not logistical, like I don't know what I want to call it, administrative stuff about the book. Anyways, this book was released in 2023, so it's very recent. And then Kristina Forrest obviously is the author. This is her one, two, three, four, fifth book. She has one more recent one, which I don't know if they're related at all. Do you know?
Yes.
It's called.
Well,
They are related.
There's in the series, yes.
Okay, so it is in the series. Do you know what the name of the series is? Like, does it have an overarching name?
It is.
With the knowing answers too.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, this is so funny. Weren't we just? That was at book club. It says she was inspired to write romance novels as a teenager by reading Sarah Dessen. We were just talking about that
Yeah.
at book club. Yes, I loved Sarah Dessen. We were just talking about that. And she lives in New Jersey.
This series is called The Greene Sisters, and
The
it
Greene
follows
Sisters.
the sisters.
Yes. Okay. So we kind of have like questions in our formatting, and it's kind of broken down into sections. So we don't know if we're gonna like keep to this or if we'll like get more comfortable with just like flowing naturally. I guess probably for this one we'll just kind of keep to it and we'll see how it goes. But so as far as like background knowledge, I didn't know anything about this book. I've said that before, but I almost never know anything about the books we read before we read them, unless I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah, I knew the general like gist of what the book was about because I had added it to my TBR list forever ago. So I read the blurb back then, but I didn't recently. So I forgot what was the exact, but I knew for the most part what the idea of the book was. So
Okay. So what's your like blanket? Normally I feel like, see, this is a little backwards because normally we talk about it at the end and this is at the beginning. But I guess what was your like overall thoughts on the book?
So overall, okay. So I'll start by saying this, that I don't normally actively search out romances. I do read them, don't get me wrong. But there are other genres at the top of my list. I expected a sweet and, like, complicated romance, definitely got that. Um, but other than that, um, there wasn't any, like, expectations, but I did enjoy the book, enjoyed, like, the characters and the themes, that centered around the book, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I generally just enjoyed it. I mean, I generally enjoy most romances. It's funny because like I used to feel like I was mainly a romance reader, and now like it's not my favorite. Only because I hate the third act breakup. Like I dread it, and
Yeah.
I know that it's coming, and I feel like they're all like I hate them all. Like I think they're all so dumb. And so like I've started to like not dread romances. I just like it gives me the ick really bad. But like overall, I did enjoy it. So like I did feel like, and I'll just move into like the like kind of the next thing as far as like and like initially getting into it, I do not like back and forth conversations. Like I don't some people really like books where like it's like a text thread or something like that. I do not like that. So like the emails at the beginning, that almost does make me want to stop reading. I enjoy like what they're talking about, but it's also very easier for me to be like to move like I'm just kind of like skimming over that. I don't really like that. I don't know how like you feel about it, but yeah, so like that did take me a little while to get into it because I don't like the back and forth. Any kind of like messaging in books, I don't like that.
So, I was kind of the opposite. I wasn't expecting it to be part epistolary, which is like the
Mhm.
mixed media in it, um, with it being told through the email correspondence. I've not really read many books like that. But I think that she did it pretty well. Um, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a unique way for us to get to know the characters and their lives without it being a huge like info dump.
Yeah, I think it is a more convenient way of like world building or story building or whatever you would call that, plot building, whatever that is. Um, versus just like I guess it's more like showing, not telling, or whatever they would say
Yeah.
when they're having that conversation. I just yeah, I don't know. That's more of a like I used to read a lot of Wattpad and they do that a lot, and I just cannot. I don't like the messaging. I'm like get me to like narrative speak and I'll be better. Um, let's see. So, are there any things that like these are just like kind of like generalized questions. So, when it comes to like the writing style, the characters, the pacing, anything particular about any of those that stood out or that you felt one way or another about?
I felt like it was I felt like the storyline was fun and engaging, a bit predictable. But the predictability didn't hurt my enjoyment. Because for the most part, most contemporary romances have the same like story structure. Um, so and that kind of goes into like the plot twists and stuff. Like there were twists, but it wasn't anything that was unexpected because of the routine story structure. Um, but I think it was well paced. Um, I was pretty hooked from the beginning. I was intrigued from the beginning, but as soon as she passed out on Subway, and accidentally sent the email like prematurely, that's when I was hooked and was like, okay. But
Yeah, I mean, like I always say, like it's a romance. Like we know, I know where this is
yeah,
going. Like, and they do. Like that's always probably going to be the same. Yeah, I don't have any gripes about the characters in this one. Sometimes like I don't really. There's like some I'm like I don't really like. But no, I don't have any gripes about that. I think the pacing's good. I think it moved at the speed in which it needed to. It didn't feel like it was like drawn out or anything. And I guess like the last part in this section is just like surprises, which I don't think there were anything like there's anything surprising about it. That I
yeah.
mean the twist was the twist that we knew it was gonna be, which was she found out who he was. So other than that, um, The only thing I guess I was surprised about was that I thought he was going to, which he almost does, like let his parents get in the way.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he didn't because I was like, don't piss me off. That was pretty
Yeah.
much it.
So we talked about the characters and, well, kind of mentioned the characters and stuff, but what are your thoughts about like the characters and character developments? Like any favorite characters or characters you didn't like or
I mean, I really like Iris because I really do always like connect with like an eldest sibling, especially a sister. I just, yeah, I do. I really enjoyed her. Um, yeah, I think actually, yeah, she might actually be like my favorite. Violet is like such like middle child energy.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so strong. She really does give like middle child energy. But yeah, I really do like Iris. I like Lily too. I think for the most part, like even when she gets in her head, I think she like does a really good job of like getting out of her head. Like her in the elevator is so funny. Like when they're like first meeting and he's like trying to talk to her about this granola bar. She's like, I'm like fair, valid. But then she like when she chases after him, I'm like, yes, like I'm so glad because I was like, I feel like those are moments and sometimes in books where they'll like draw that out and then like this will continue, like, and I'm like, no, like I don't want that. Like I'm glad that we got straight to the point and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go like right after this person, and I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that Kristina Forrest did an exceptional job with the character development. All the characters, especially Nick and Lily, felt real, and their internal and external conflicts felt relatable, which
Yeah.
is like, a big thing. um, but I enjoyed learning about our characters, both the main characters and like the secondary or side characters, especially Lily's family and their dynamics.
Yeah.
Um, I loved reading the obvious love that they had for each other through their interactions and traditions at their parents' party, which we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
But
I do love that whole segment might be my
yeah,
favorite, one of my favorites too. So
yeah. The
yeah,
only really characters that I wasn't super fond of was Nick's parents and Violet's ex-fiance, but I think that kind of is intentional because we didn't really get much information on them, which they weren't really big parts in their lives either, so makes sense. But
yeah, I think like Nick's parents, like it's like you get it.
Mhm.
It's one of those situations where it's like, and I guess we can talk about it since people are like listening to talk about it. So like Nick's dad basically is like the result of an affair. Like his dad basically was best friends with this guy. They were in the army. His dad comes home and steals his friend's fiance, gets her pregnant, and then as a result, Nick's dad is born and is like the shame of the town. And then Nick's dad becomes this really big athlete. I think it's basketball, but then he has an injury and he becomes like this washed up basketball player who never leaves this town. And as a result, he becomes like, I believe, is he an alcoholic or
I
does he
think
just gamble?
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's an alcoholic and he like gambles and steals. And like, so Nick is like also raised with this like, I have to escape mentality. I can't end up like my dad. Um, but I like love my dad. I want to be around my dad. Like he ends up on like a mission with his dad where his dad steals from this guy, and as a result, like Nick has this scar throughout the book because Lily's always wondering like, well, how does he have this scar? And it's because he fell running from a guy that they stole from because he thought he was helping his dad. And then at the same time, like his mom, which I talk about this like in real life all the time about how like an absent father is so much better than like a
Yeah.
present toxic one,
Mhm.
because his mom, and she says this at the end of the book, is like, well, I just thought like having him around, like I wanted you to be raised in a two-parent household, and it's like I wasn't though, like because you guys were never around. His mom literally like every day was chasing after his dad. Like he would steal her car, she would chase him to the end of the earth. They would come back. Then he was drunk. He was still like all that stuff, and it was so unhealthy.
It's
Um, for
It's more
him.
harmful than
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and it's like so now it's an adult, and like that's basically like the whole thing behind him. Like in this book is like, that's why he's ran like this entire time is like he's always running. He's basically the reason he even does the pen name is because he's afraid that his dad will find out that he has money and will take it from him, will show up and find a way to take it from him. And so, like, finally at the end, like, he gets to decide one, he decides, like, I'm not going to let him. But two, his mom is like, she realizes that she's wrong and she's like, I'm finally gonna like leave my dad or leave his dad because his dad gets in a car wreck or something. Like, his dad's never going to change.
Yeah.
But his mom is finally like deciding to, but it's just like that's like a very common thing. And for Nick to like he has to decide like I have to just make these decisions for myself because otherwise like I am missing out on like I'm gonna miss out on Lily, like I'm gonna miss out. He
Right.
realizes like I do want to be an author, I don't just want to be like a secret author. I want to like have like he wants to be Rebecca Yarros. He wants to be SJM. Like he wants to have an HBO show and like do all this stuff and like he can't because he's running from that. And so I think that's a very good like arc for him to realize that. And then also like Lily, like I feel like that's also a thing like especially like black families, but I'm sure like in all like um being the non-successful one in your family, and it's not that she's like not successful because I guess success is defined by the individual, but it's like when you have like very successful people like
You're
I can't
measuring
remember.
yourself up to everybody
Yeah,
else.
everyone's married, everyone owns a business or they're doing whatever their dream thing is to do, and you like are single, you are sleeping on your sister's couch, you work at a job you hate, and they're like constantly like, and people don't realize that when they're constantly like talking to you about it and you're like, please just like leave me alone. And
Mhm.
she's finally like, like no matter what, like I'm just gonna make these decisions for myself. And she finally like stands up to them too because theirs is all out of a place of love and
Yeah.
they're not trying to make her feel bad, but they don't recognize that. And she does have to finally like stand up for herself, and she does that too, like with her boss, who just sucked so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads into my one word being inadequacy because Lily felt like she couldn't measure up to her family, especially both of her very successful sisters. And she expects too much of herself as well and can't measure up to that. And then Nick feeling like his inadequacy is a little different because he feels like he isn't enough for Lily because of this parental trauma and always waiting for the other shoe to drop because it always does. So he self sabotages and, screws up his chances before anybody else can do it for him. So, yeah, that's why inadequacy was my word.
And I think it's interesting too because like that's just it's all like subjective because like in reality, like Violet's not necessarily that successful. I mean, she ends up having a
Mhm.
failed engagement. Like on the outside, like it looks very great, but she like Violet is known to have like friend zoned every man that's ever come her way, all for her to end up with the one guy who treated her probably the worst. Like every guy
Yeah.
she's probably so like in the relationship business, like she's not successful. And like even Iris, like she did have like a good marriage and she's like working, but like her job is like almost like working her to death. And so it's
Yeah.
like that's not necessarily like happiness. Like I do feel like Lily, even though Lily's job is also kind of working her to death, like I feel like Lily was like more content than the others,
Mhm.
like and did find more like peace than maybe Violet and Iris do. And I think so like again, like success is so subjective because it's really just based on like who's
Yeah.
saying what success
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So yeah, that's a really good point.
So the party kind of leads into the emotional impacts and favorite moments because the party was by far my favorite scene in the book because we're shown this big loving flawed obviously family, but they are I don't know, it's the love and the traditions that kind of speak to, I think, to Nick on how what he's missing in his life. And I think that's a big part of why of the self-sabotage, because he sees what a loving family could be and enjoys the interactions with this family that isn't his, and sees what he's missing out on. Um, but no, I love that scene, especially the when he's playing basketball with her cousins, and she walks out, and he's just kind of dumbstruck at how beautiful she is. I don't, ugh, I love it.
Yeah, no, I do too. Like, I love that. I love the fashion show. It gave me, like, very much like, have you seen Johnson's Family Vacation? With, like,
Forever ago, yeah.
yeah, like, Solange and them, like, yeah, it gave me that. Like, it was just, like, so fun. And, like, yeah, I just think, like, it is such a good scene, and so, like, the Greenes, Lily's, like, parents, I can't remember what her dad's name is, but her mom's name is Dahlia, and her grandma's name was Rose, like, so there are all these flowers,
Mhm.
and her parents own, like, a flower shop, um, and so, like, they have just, like, blossomed from this, like, family, and it really is, like, warm, and, like, when he ends up, Nick ends up staying the night because they're there so late because 'cause they're in New Jersey, and he, like, sees all the pictures, and, like, he's like, "I don't even have pictures, like, if there are pictures of me, I don't know where they are," like, if his child like, he just realizes, like, how much he's, like, missed, um, out on or, like, doesn't have to, like, reflect back on, and even, like, his friend slash, like, manager, which what is his name? Marcus?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, he's, like, telling him like, Marcus is, he has a partner, and, like, he even has, like, a home life, and he's like, "You're always, like, running, like, you need to, settle, like, and stop, like, just stay and, like, face whatever that is," because he is just, like, missing out on so many things, and it's sad, and he's just had gotten so, like, accustomed to it, and it's like he also was a travel journalist and would literally go to family homes, like, that was his
Right.
whole thing, he was always with families and not with his own, like, he wouldn't even, like, know where his mom well, he would never call for his dad, but he wouldn't even know where his mom was for, like, periods of time, and, like, when she does finally call him and tell him about the accident, she had to get, like, I don't know, like, a payphone or, like, a prepaid phone or whatever, and he goes home for, like, the first time, and she's like, "Oh," like, he's like, "Yeah, I'm back in the States," and she's like, "How long?" He's like, "I've been here for 6 months." And she's upset, but, like, I don't think she has the right to be upset.
Right.
But, he just, like yeah, like, he spent all this time with families, and, like, it's just like, yeah, like, you have to stop running from that, like, that I don't know, and I get it, 'cause that is hard, like, when you grow up in the life he grew up in, like, I don't blame him at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I also really liked the part of um the family get together where he was talking to Calla, Iris's daughter,
Yeah.
and she had been, pitched as this very shy, quiet, a little socially awkward little girl, and she kind of just blossoms to him. Like, I that was really heartwarming. She's like, "I'll teach you to swim."
Yeah, it's so cute, and then I do like also, Lily has a cat named Tomcat, and,
Yeah.
like, he what does he do? Eat her earring? Is it earring, I
I
think?
think so.
And so he, like, gets sick, and Nick is, like, deathly afraid of cats because the reason he found out about his, like, history and why the town
Mm.
like, he grew up in hates him so bad is because this lady was his babysitter, and she was horribly mean to him, and she had
Okay.
cats that were, like, mean to him, and she told him. So, like, he is like, "Oh, you got a cat?" Like, he's, like, scared of this cat, but the cat gets sick, and he literally, like, holds this cat and carries it, like, on the subway, like, all the way to the vet, and then, like, when Lily finds out, like, who he is or whatever, and she's not talking to him, he's like, "Okay, like, okay, I can make up like her or whatever. He's like, okay, I need to get her something. He's like, she was in the kitchen, like reaching for the cat food. She couldn't reach it. So she needs a stool. So he gets up at like 11 o'clock at night. Cause he's like, New York is the city that never sleeps. And then he's like, oh, but it does in fact sleep. Cause he has to go all the way to like Brooklyn from like, they live in Uptown, I think. And he has to like go and he gets her like a stool and like some stuff for the cat. And he
Like
just like drops it off.
cat
Yeah. And like
treat.
the next morning. And she's like, what? But he's just like, I don't know, like he's trying to figure it out. And it's so funny because there's also like other side characters I did like, even though I feel like they do not have a big part at all. Henry and Yolanda.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I wish we
yeah,
would have had more on them.
yeah,
Um, Even if it was just kind of a little kind of touch on how they met, how they all
yeah.
met, and like I don't know. I really liked them. They were
They
cute.
were fun. And I did think at the beginning of the book, he wakes up in Yolanda's bed after like the whole reason that Lily thinks that he might be able to help her find a date is because Henry gets on the elevator and is like, hey, like I need you to like give me a pep talk. I'm gonna go ask Yolanda to like be my girl. And he's like, whatever. So she's like, oh, like he's a good friend. And then the next morning he wakes up naked in Yolanda's bed. And I'm like, oh my God, like no, like, oh, you do suck. Like, no, you're bad. But he just like got drunk and sleeps naked. And so yeah, no, that was funny. I did like that. I enjoyed that. That was nice. Anything that you didn't like in the book or any scenes that you felt like were a miss?
Honestly, not that I can pick out. Um Overall, I really enjoyed it. I don't know that there was anything that I didn't necessarily like not enjoy. So,
Yeah, like I don't feel like I either liked it or like I don't have an opinion on it. I don't think there was
yeah.
anything that was just like I hate this. I loathe it entirely. Like I didn't I don't know. Like I don't know. I enjoyed it. Oh, I also enjoyed like the bookstore scene.
Yeah,
When they go to
yes.
the bookstore and when they finally like go on a date and he like I was like this is the attention to detail men when he like
Mhm.
finally takes her on like a date and they're like actually dating. He like looks up her favorite author and she's doing like a nearby, I think it was in like Connecticut or something, I don't know, she's doing a nearby like meet and greet and like takes Lily. And I was like that was so simple, but like it's so thoughtful. And I was
And
like, that is perfect.
I think it was that date that had him realize that he really wanted to be a scene author too, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because he
this would
sees
be nice.
her like that author, like he sees like what it's like to see an author like with their fans and like just like that love and like what it feels like to get up and like front of people and like yeah, and that's when he was like, okay, I really want to do this. And then his freaking parents call and he's like, never
Yeah.
mind, like I'm not gonna do it. And I'm like, no, like you're definitely gonna do it. Yeah, no. So, and then like I guess just like before we like do our final thoughts, just like how the book like wraps up is essentially like he goes home. Well, okay, so she does end up, how does she end up forgiving him? I'm trying to think. My thoughts
Well,
are
he had brought the stuff for Tomcat because
yeah, he brings the stuff.
they had kind of like broken up, I guess. Before Tomcat got sick, and then she texted him because she was gonna go on a date with that one guy.
That guy. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
And then Tomcat got sick, so she was like, I don't know who else to call, and he helped her
Yes.
with that, and then ended up showing up with everything for
And then they go to the bar and that's the guy. So there's a guy that gets another like editor that's like or something. He's like working at the job and she's like, if this would have been a year ago, I would have thought he was in art. Like he looks like
yeah.
what in our Strickland should look like because Nick looks nothing like a nerdy British guy. And so like they go out to like the bar or whatever with like coworkers, but like Nick ends up coming and like the guy can like tell like yeah you like him. So like that's when they end up getting together and then like they date for a little while, but then Nick gets the call, he goes home, and at that same time is when they go to Miami for Violet's bachelorette party, which is when she finds
Yep.
out her fiance's cheating, and she decides we're not canceling the wedding, we're having an anti-wedding. Um, and then like Nick ends up like he's being weird, and so she can kind of feel him like pulling away while he's gone. But then she's like, literally, she's like, I'm about to quit my job and fly to him. He's like, I'm flying back home. He ends up flying home before she can get to him, and he like shows up at this like big publisher party because his book is actually being republished, but it's at her company. She just doesn't work in that section, and it's at a party that she's not invited to because she's not that high up or whatever. But he ends up being there, and like they end up like everything ends up fine or whatever. And then they go to like the anti wedding and all of that. So yeah, no, it's really I don't know, it's just really cute. I don't is the next book I wonder is the next book Violet or Iris?
The
Because at the end
next book is
Iris.
Violet,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it's called The Partner Plot. Hmm?
Yeah, I think so. That's interesting because at the end it's like Iris, like one of
Yeah.
the guys that Violet tried to hook her up with, which is like a musician. He actually is like looking at Iris, which Iris hates like all the people that Violet's around because she thinks like musicians are dumb and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So no, that's kind
Yeah,
of fun.
so The Partner Plot, I read a little bit about it, but that is Violet, and then it's a second chance romance
Hmm.
that cuz in when they I think we're at the family get together or whatever, not Violet, Lily and Nick were talking about how her dad liked Nick, and you would know if he didn't. It was like he
Oh, it's
acted,
that guy.
yeah, and she said there was only one guy that one boyfriend of Violet's that my dad liked. It's him. And
Mhm.
then the love lyric is Iris's.
Oh, so she probably does end up with that guy
Yeah.
based off of the title. Interesting. Okay. Well, all right. So, what did you end up rating this?
I ended up rating it 4 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. Was it exceptional? I wouldn't say so, but um I would read it again if, in the future.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 stars too. I mean, it's pretty straightforward romance. Did not hate it. Did not hate the third act issue. So there's that.
It wasn't too bad of a third act,
Yeah,
breakup. Um it wasn't too dramatic. It was
it wasn't
relatable,
completely made up or
realistic
something.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
can.
like the miscommunication trope is the
Yes.
worst. But so it's
Uh,
not, yeah.
yeah, I was like, it's tolerable. It's okay. But no, it was good. I like the characters. Like all of that was good. So yeah, no, I gave it a 4 stars. So yeah. All right. Do we have reviews?
Okay, I'm just gonna read a little bit of this one. But 5 stars. Imagine getting to bang your hot neighbor who happens to also be your favorite author. Reading The Neighbor Favor felt like having someone in your life who takes you to a bookstore and not only buys you any books, but also knows which books you want. Yeah,
Yeah,
great book boyfriend.
he is. Once he gets his stuff together, he gets all the thumbs up.
Okay. This is a long one, so I'm not reading all of it. But 1 star. I simply cannot take this book seriously. I've read 2 of Forrest's other books. One I had a fun time with, and one I thought was foolish. And this one was pure foolishness. I don't care if I'm in the minority of people, but I simply do not care to read about a woman trying to find romantic love when she has not a single solitary friend in her life. Like, ma'am, I don't think that the group of sisters were supposed to sub in for that. And sure, Miss Lily lives with one. The family in this book feels like such a nuisance. Okay.
Ouch. Okay.
To each their own, but that one was a little harsh.
Ouch. All right. Well, what's the next one? Okay. So our next book is a memoir. It is Master of Me by Kiki Palmer, which is also narrated by Miss Kiki Palmer. And after that, we will be back to covering Throne of Glass. So hopefully this format is working. I think it's working. So that's what we'll be doing for the foreseeable future. I don't think there's anything else. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. And we will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.